Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith, and you are tuned in to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. The podcast that will connect you to resources regionally and nationwide to engage them and you in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire the growth that you need to chase the experience you want. So strap yourself in because here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. This is Sean Smith, and on the other line, co-host Sam. How are you doing, Sam?
We're doing well. How are you?
Can't complain. Well, I can. I let me rephrase. I can complain. Not that anyone's going to listen, but I can't complain. We had a little bit of an incident take place here at the house not too long ago. Actually, a couple days ago. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But, it's all about the experience, I guess. But so what's been going on in the great state of Colorado?
Not a whole lot. Just been kind of waiting on cooler weather as of late. The last month and a half there, we were 100 degrees plus. And so anytime after about sunup, it was hard to get out to do much or get motivated to do much, and unless you're traveling to the high country. But we are rolling into September here real quick and the weather's starting to cool down a bit. We got nice 50-degree mornings and still getting in the 80s, 90s through the day, but it's much better than those 100-degree temperatures.
Yeah. We've got it's here in Ohio. It's not like been 100-degree days. It's been high 80s, maybe low 90s. And it's just been miserable. I don't know if I'm getting older and I just don't like it, or if the heat's different right now for some reason. It's weird. Now, I did turn 40 this year, so I heard a lot of things happen to you when you turn 40. So I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out what this new 40 is for me.
And a lot of what I've been reading lately is Ohio's in somewhat of drought conditions.
Yeah, I seen that. And more in the southeast. We're on the northern cusp of southeastern Ohio, where I live and where you're from originally. We're kind of in a slight drought in our area, but if you get down in the southeast, down towards Marietta and that areas, I guess they're in an extreme drought.
Man, it's crazy. It's something you'd never think would really happen because, living there for so many years, it seemed like most of the days were rainy.
Yeah.
And if they weren't, they were humid enough to where something's getting moisture.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have a lot of military bases around us, is because of the cloud cover we get. So, yeah, we do get a lot of rain, or some bit of rain, but this year, not so much. It's, we get little kick-ups here and there, and but that's it. So it does not look like it has affected the crops much, but however, my yard it has affected, thank God, because I'm tired of mowing 6 acres.
I'm sure my mom's been sending me pictures of their lawn, and it looks exhausted, to say the least.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's dead, but I would agree. Exhausted is a good way to put it. It's not dead. There's a couple spots that are still growing, so it wouldn't hurt for me to go out there and hit it with the mower. But, you know what? Speaking of mowing, I have never in my life come across so many ground yellowjacket nests ever.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm on number 5 this year. Right?
I wonder if the dry soil conditions are just making it loose enough for them to burrow in this year and make it a little more habitable.
That's what I've heard, is that the drier seasons and the drier years, they're really prolific during those times. But I've counted at least 5 now. 4 of them I have eradicated. One is in a location that's not going to be an issue. Now, granted, I do have I do have close to 6 acres, and I mow 5 of it because the other acre is a pond. So not a good idea to mow a pond. You're more than welcome to try if you'd like, and let me know what your results were.
Those underwater tractors get expensive.
Right. And luckily I've not been stung by any of the nests yet where I've been out like mowing. However, my dogs have found them multiple times, and they've been stung a few times now. And that's usually what leads me to find those nests is that the dogs will start acting like they're getting stung. And then I start looking around the area, and sure enough, there's a hole in the ground that, a large amount of yellow jackets are flying into.
And it seems to be a lab thing. They just can't keep their nose out of everything else's business.
No. Especially the black ones.
Yeah. They'll, I don't know. My yellow one, he seems to have that trouble himself. He has yet to get stung, but he's found himself pretty close to it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what's worse, them getting stung by yellow jackets or getting sprayed by a skunk.
Ooh, I'm gonna say the skunk.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Because just a couple nights ago, Khozzie, our black lab, decided that he was going to try to go make friends with a skunk, and it didn't work out in his favor.
No, the skunk didn't want to be friends.
No, he didn't, not at all. And here's the problem behind this is when you read up on skunks, like oh yeah, they have a defense mechanism that will deter animals from bothering them in the future. Apparently, whoever wrote that has never met or knows about black labs. Because this is Khozzie's second go at being sprayed by a skunk.
The skunk thing for black labs seems to be a trend. My wife grew up with black labs, and her parents' female just couldn't seem to stay away from the skunks. Maybe it wasn't a deterrent for her. Maybe it was just something she just enjoyed.
It's like
maybe she knew when she got sprayed she'd get all this attention and all these baths, but who knows?
Poor Khozzie's been on one this week because earlier in the week, before he got sprayed, so the day he got sprayed by a skunk was the day I took him to the vet because we thought he broke his tail. And
oh geez.
And it was weird because kind of visualize this like a hand width. If you grab a hold of the base of his tail and you go about hand width away from his hindquarters, right towards the end of his tail, was limp. Like that base, he could move, lift it, do whatever, right? But the rest of the tail was like limp and dead, didn't move, nothing, right? And
that's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, that's really odd for him, right? And because normally he's able to lift it, it's usually lifted, kind of curled up towards, up in the air and stuff. So yeah. my mom's the one at first kind of noticed it, and then I started paying attention to it. I'm like, oh, you're right. And so we were worried that he broke it. So we took him in Tuesday to the vet, and they're like, well, it's not broke. I'm like, well, that's good. He's like, to be honest with you, it might be kind of he's like, he didn't like, not a serious spinal injury, but maybe like a strained muscle along the spine or something like that. That's kind of, causing some issues. So they gave us some pain meds and some muscle relaxers. And, after about one day of that, his tail was magically better. So I think he was faking, to be honest with you.
He just needed some love, some extra
apparently
attention.
That was $100 and some dollars later. He's actually been pretty expensive for me because we got home Tuesday, right? Put him on his first round of meds, and I typically take the dogs out for their last like hoorah sometime between 11 p.m. and midnight. And so we're out and we kind of stick around to like the very closest bit to the yard. And I'm with, watching over the silver lab, and I don't really notice the black lab had disappeared. And well, apparently he had seen the skunk and went to go investigate. And so I finally found Khozzie running back towards me, and I kid you not, that skunk literally was chasing him. So I don't know what he did to that skunk, because not only did the skunk spray him, but it was then chasing him. So
yeah, that's unusual. Usually that spray means, all right, you're close enough and I'm getting out of here.
Right. And that's what I assumed. No, that the skunk was chasing my dog. And so then this prompted the silver lab to go investigate. So I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs at him to stop. And I don't know what your guys' opinions are on these, but we have shock collars for him. And I like lay into him because I'm like, you're not getting sprayed by the skunk, right? Because at this point, I didn't know Khozzie had been sprayed yet. I thought maybe whatever, right? Because I didn't smell it. And then sure enough, when Khozzie got up to me, it just, it hits you here. And
it's a hot smell. It's a hot stink.
Yeah. It's just, and we've been through this before, and I know the nightmare of this thing is. So being our second go around with this, immediately came back to the house and made up a concoction of hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and Dawn dish soap. And you kind of make this mixture. I think it's like, and you can look it up on the web, but it's like 1 quart of hydrogen peroxide. And then it's like a 1/4 cup of baking soda and a couple teaspoons of Dawn dish soap. You mix that stuff all well, and then you just slather it over your dog, and almost immediately, right? And let it sit there for about 5-10 minutes. You got to be careful though, because it will bleach your dog's hair. So Khozzie might not be a black lab right at the moment. He's kind of pushing the chocolate side right now, and around his roots. But so got that on him. Let it sit for about 5-10 minutes, and then you rinse them off. And then the baths started after that. Like we have some leftover de-skunking shampoo, started hitting it. Today we did another round today. So I think he's on bath number 10. And,
holy cow.
And it's just, I'm telling you, we knocked it down pretty good, but it's still there. Like unfortunately, there's no getting rid of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's from my short couple years in pest control, the research that I had done as far as skunks and how that spray works. Typically, you're looking at least 4 weeks for that to be hanging around, lingering around. So
yeah,
you can wash and wash and wash, and you can make it better, but it's still gonna linger for a couple weeks.
Unfortunately, and but oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's part of the game. You live in a rural community with off-leash dogs, and they're gonna be curious.
Yeah, he's a little bit too curious, I think. Because like I said, this is the second time. I don't know if he just wasn't sure about the first time, if that was, the normal reaction of a skunk. So he had to confirm that with the second time or not.
Well, but maybe he thought it was a cat. He got bamboozled.
He got surprised again. Well, my mom was telling him, was like, you need to stay away from them black and white kitties. They stink.
They do. Oh man.
So anyways, yeah, that's been pretty much what I've done since Tuesday night, is bathe my dog.
Well, what's a couple more?
Yeah. Hopefully we won't have this happen again, but given the prevalence of it, I don't want to jinx it, but I probably going to happen again.
Oh, almost for certain.
I'm gonna have to like build him a little room outside. When he does this, he can just stay outside.
No doubt. Just build it right off the storm door and close it.
Yeah. I mean, the part of me kind of felt bad for him, because it's dark, it's night, and we're outside, cold ass water. It's pretty, washing him off multiple times, and he's a lab, but bath time's still not his favorite thing. So, but at the same time, like, you know what, this is what you get. Like, this is the second time that you've done this.
You brought it upon yourself, man.
A part of me wants this to be a traumatizing event for you, so you stop doing it.
Only time will tell.
But unfortunately, he'll take the wrong part of it as traumatizing, where he'll absolutely hate bath, but yet still want to go, stick his nose up a skunk's ass.
Well, something about it must be bringing him back.
Yeah, I don't know, because it stinks. I don't like it. So let's talk about something else. So when this airs, deer season is quickly approaching. Your archery seasons in Colorado has started by the time this airs. And so sure. I kind of want to get everyone kind of in the mood for their season to start. And I wanted to take a moment, or at least focus on this episode, talking about our first bow kills.
Perfect.
So do we need to Rochambeau? Who's going to go first, or what do you think? Or,
I feel like I usually lead off. Let's go ahead and start with your first archery kill.
My first,
get into, yeah.
My first archery kill. All right. So
Or do you want to do first archery kill or first archery deer kill?
they're the same for me, by the way. Uh,
Okay.
they're the same for me. And well, so I guess it kind of started off like I got into bow hunting kind of a little bit later. Like I had been gun hunting for several years. You know, I started as a mid-teen out hunting, and then I didn't pick up bow hunting until I think I was in college. When I was in college, I bought my first bow off of a guy down in that I knew in Newcomerstown. It was an old Clearwater whitetail, and old bow, right? And
Mm.
I had that all through college. Never shot anything with it. You know, I practiced a lot. I love to shoot bows. Like I think my obsession with archery, you know, started a very, you know, right around the first time I shot one. So,
So
um,
what was it that kind of pushed you towards archery? Was it the media coming out at the time? You know, a lot of the outdoor whitetail shows. Was it magazines? Was it just pure curiosity of people you saw doing it around you? What got you there?
you know, there wasn't a lot of people around me that bow hunted. Most of the people that I had, you know, mentored with were all gun hunters. So, you know, there was small game season, you know, and then there was deer season. And then it was back to either you didn't do anything or you took a muzzleloader out. It was always with firearms of some sort, right? And
Right.
so, you know, I want to say most of the influence came from just watching some of the outdoor television shows, you know, like the Buckmasters. Primos was a big one for me. Because I remember, you know, one of the traditions that we used to have, me and my buddy that we hunted a lot together, was before deer season came in, is we would always go buy like the new Primos DVD for like bow hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would watch it, you know, on, you know, constant repeat, you know, so you'd have like, you know, 2 or 3 hours of nothing but bow hunting and stuff. And so I think that's what really got me into bow hunting. And so, or what got me interested in it. So I bought this old Clearwater, and I had no idea what I was doing back then, right? I had, you know, whatever arrows that came with it, you know, they were like Easton 6570s or something like that. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just know when I went to Walmart, I looked for something that matched my draw length and was the same arrow, right? And
Yeah,
and
sure.
then I matched it up with whatever broadhead, you know, whatever broadhead that was there. And, you know, not knowing anything about fixed blades or mechanicals, anything like that. But, you know, I had that bow for a few years and never shot anything with it. You know, never really had any opportunities, you know, because I was pretty much self-taught. Like I'm hunting out of like wooden tree stands. This is like how far back we go. Because the one guy whose property I hunted a lot, like he had some, you know, wooden stands that he created. And so we kind of mimicked those and built some of our own. And it's just, you know, the pieces never came together. And, you know, I never really got one with a bow until,
Ah.
uh, went out all through college. And then that was really my college years was the only year that I never really shot a deer ever. Was one year in
So I
college.
guess I wanted to ask, speaking of your college years, because you and I both attended the same college many years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not many, but several years apart at least. And I know that there's a pretty good chunk of public land down there. Did you ever go out and dabble, try to spot and stalk or anything throughout that region while you were there?
We did one or two hunts with the bows, but a lot of times, a lot of those guys weren't big into bow hunting, and
Hmm.
so we went out like a couple times, but we mostly focused on like small game if we went. So we were like taking our shotguns and stuff. If we went out, you know, we'd go out for squirrel and stuff. Which is the first time
Okay.
I've seen a copperhead. It was dead on one of the trails, but I'm like, oh, that's a copperhead.
Better dead than stuck in the side of your leg.
Yeah, I guess. So we got to fast forward, get through the height through the college years, and I start working at Yerkesville Police Department about 2005, and it's around this time frame that I bought my first brand new bow from Northeast Outdoors there in the south side of New Philly, which Greg, who's still there today, was there then, and I ended up buying a bear, the Truth, It was a brand new bow, and it was a collab between Primos and Bear. So that's why they called it the Truth. It had the
Okay.
Primos orange and green strings on it. And so I bought that bow, and then I bought Greg talked me into, when I say talked me, he suggested the Carbon Express Predator arrows, because I hadn't used carbon yet. I've always been using aluminum arrows. He's like, here, try these. And so I bought them, and they shot pretty well. And I eventually ended up, like, I just got field points, didn't buy any broadheads off of him, but I had some field point or some broadheads I had purchased, which were I forgot what they were, but they were the NAP Crossfires. Do you remember those at all?
I don't recall those. I recall the Thunderhead, but because I think they're still manufacturing that. But no, I don't remember the Crossfires.
So the Crossfire was a fixed blade that it was a 3-blade, and the ferrule spun like independent of the arrow.
Really?
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So I bought those off a guy down in Cummerstown who had like a small little archery shop that he had started up, and he didn't make it very long, but I bought those off him, and so that's why I ended up using hunting with. And so I know that's probably my first season with that new bear, and I've been practicing, and I'm self-taught the entire way. Like, I didn't know that fixed blades and field points did not automatically shoot the same spot. Matter of fact, there's a lot of mechanicals that don't impact the same as your field points, by the way. I come to find out later. But so I've got that Bear Truth. I got those Crossfires, and I have not really practiced with the broadheads. Once again, self-taught. I've always been shooting with the field points. I'd get up on my roof of my house, to practice shooting angles and stuff, shooting down at targets. I was like trying to make myself the best as I could, but I never thought about shooting with the broadheads. And
without anyone to guide you to that direction, it wouldn't have really even been a thought in my mind. I know as a kid, I typically just shot the broadheads at the target that we had just because I don't recall a lot of field points laying around, and maybe good, maybe bad. But yeah, without someone there to tell you, hey, those don't fly the same, you don't know.
Right. No, you don't. And it's one of those things, like, you don't know what you don't know, because you didn't know to ask either. Like, you just, like most ignorant people, you just assume and just walked away with it. And that's what I did. Like, oh, it should be the same. And I started dabbling into buying like actual tree stands now. So because I had I had a really bad experience with a wooden stand during gun season, like a couple's it wasn't I was still in high school. So, but I really didn't get introduced to like the metal stands, the the hang on stands, till I was in college. I started hanging out with some of those other guys that, were a little bit further along in their hunting than I was. But I was hunting out of a wooden stand during gun season, and it was a stand that was built in the shape of a triangle between 3 trees that were really close together. They might have been just, they kind of merged into one tree anyways down at the base, but there were 3 different trees. And so he built this wooden stand between these 3 in the shape of a triangle. And I'm sitting there and the wind's blowing, and I can feel like, all of a sudden I can start to feel like the stand start to creak or creep a little bit. I'm like, well, that's not good. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, what do I do? Because it's morning, and it's a good morning, and I really expect deer to be moving. I'm like, well, just wait it out, see what happens. And sure as shit, like, the wind blows a little bit harder, and all of a sudden it's like a trap door. Boom, it goes, and I fall out of it. And this was back in the day before harnesses. Back then was just waist belts that had a rope that tied off to the tree. That was your safety.
Ooh.
That was your safety. And so luckily I didn't fall far, but once again, I'm holding, and I actually kept a hold of my gun too. Actually, I had like watching me had to be funny, because it let go. I fall straight down, and then all of a sudden you come that halt, like, and then I'm like dangling here, kind of half hunched over because I'm in a belt, right? And like in one hand's my gun just kind of dangling there, and the rest of me's kind of just sitting there dangling, spinning around in the circle because I just fell out of the tree. And
looking like a yo-yo that just gave up.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what I look like. and so then I'm looking, I didn't like lose consciousness. I didn't get hurt or anything. And thank God because I just told myself, because I felt it slipping away. I'm like, you better tie your rope off. And I did. And I'm glad that I did, because
how high up was that platform that you had?
Oh, it had to have been, it was homemade. I mean, it's got to be, I'm going to go somewhere between 12 to 15 feet, because he didn't like to make his very high up.
But still high enough, it would have messed you up pretty good.
Oh yeah, especially I'd have fell right in the crotch of those 3 trees.
Probably would have been broken ribs and who knows what else.
So I kind of started to shy away from the wooden stands at that point. And by the time I got to start working the real job as a police officer, making adult money, I started to buy adult things, and tree stands was one of them. And so this is like my very first like tree stand that I purchased. I have it, I think, probably 70 yards from where that wooden stand was I fell out of. It's on the top of a ridge line. And so I put that tree stand up there. I had scouted it before. Somebody else that worked at Denison PD, he was the chief of police at the time. His name, or no, he wasn't the chief. He was a sergeant. It was Rob Hunt, because your uncle was the chief at the time. Doug was. And so Rob was big into bow hunting. He's another, he was another kind of mentor of mine. And so we went out to scout, and we were finding, rubs and this and that, and fresh rubs. Like there was like blood left behind from where they had rubbed off their velvet. I'm like, cool. So I set my tree stand up there. And like one of the very first days I go back there, sure enough, I get an opportunity at a little 6-point buck, right? And I'm not passing this up, because I've hunted with a bow for a few years. I've never had an opportunity, so I was really excited for this. So he actually gets like really close to my stand, like closer than I thought he was going to. And so now I'm like, I come the full draw. That was pretty easy, and then I get leveled in on him, and I'm still using like a wrist, I'm using a wrist rocket at the time. So I get aimed on him. I get my finger on the trigger, and then I just kind of let it go. And then I watched the arrow, and it kind of flew kind of funny. I'm like, what the heck? And it hit him a little bit further back than where I was aiming. And I didn't know what had happened. So, but he ran up over top of the hill, and then I watched him. I didn't watch him. Let me rephrase that. I heard him crash. I'm like, well, I guess I got him. And, so that was, so I was all, of course I'm like all excited, because I just shot a deer with my bow, and, I was not expecting it. And it was a long time coming. Like it took me a while to kind of get the gear kind of dialed in to kind of get me in that situation, because I was never good at yardage judging, and I didn't have a rangefinder at the time, when I first started, and I missed some opportunities on some actually really nice bucks, because I just couldn't, I wasn't comfortable with the shot, because I wasn't 100% sure how far that was, right?
Right.
Today, it would have been a different story, but then I was still new. So he was the first one I was actually able to get he was almost right underneath the stand, so I didn't really need range, but I had a rangefinder, like an old Bush. No, actually, I still have that. It's an old Nikon. I still have that rangefinder, to be honest with you. It's in the back in one of my storage bins. And so I had an idea of how far he was. It was Nikon's Archer Choice was the rangefinder.
Okay.
And that was, if you remember, what's their names? They run the Archer's Choice TV show.
Was that Ralph and Vicky model?
Them. Yep, them. And which I used to watch their show a lot too. I kind of like their vibe and stuff. And
they put out some really good stuff.
They do. It's a good wholesome show too, right? I just kind of like their vibe, especially like their moose hunts and things are pretty cool. But anyways, so I give it some time, because I know, because I remember like people tell me like give it like 30 minutes, before you climb down and start tracking and stuff. So I did, and I climbed down out of the stand, and then I started tracking. I had a little bit of blood here. I just kind of following the blood, I was used to blood trailing by this point, because I've shot a few deer with guns that have ran off. So you kind of got used to blood trailing. So that wasn't a new thing. And then sure enough, the buck was laying there. I'm like, Yeah, he's like a little, he's probably going to be the cover for this episode. He's a 1 year old 6 point buck, right? So he's not this massive deer, but dude, I was so pumped because he was my first bow kill ever. Like, and just the happiness I remember, because it was a long time coming for me to actually shoot a deer with a bow. And to be honest with you, like, going back and thinking about it, like, it took me a while from that point to actually shoot my first, well, let me say, harvest my first, or actually kill my first trophy class buck, right? And I felt just as happy for that first one as I did for that first. This little buck meant just as much to me, if not more, than what that big deer did too. So
Absolutely. And all those years of hard work and practicing and shooting and, going out and not seeing anything or being close but not close enough and falling out of a tree stand almost.
yeah,
Just
it's
everything that led up to that moment of just the first taste of success.
yeah, like I said, I've sat a few times. I've seen good deer, nice bucks. I rattled one in that was a really nice buck, and today I would have known, like, looking back, I'm like, that was 22 yards that he was at. I definitely could have, like, I easily could have shot that deer. I just didn't know it, like, then, because I was still young. And
Yeah.
that was back in the day. Like, my camo was like Walmart, like, whatever Realtree was at the time. And
Still love my camo.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I was buying that. It was a big jumpsuit. And I remember, because I used to buy the Hunter Specialties Earth scent stuff. So the wash and then the dryer sheets. And then I would throw, once they were dried, I would, like, throw them into a trash bag, and I would dump, like, leaves and stuff in there with it. And that was a trick that one of my mentors had said, yeah, dump some leaves and stuff in there. It'll help cover your scent up. So, I mean, I think that's why I still use fresh earth stuff, because it's a nostalgia thing for me, because it takes me back to those days when I first started, right? And because that was the tips and tricks that we did back then. So, I had this, white garbage bag. I mean, today we've got ozone, we got these ozone lockers, we got these different, scent thief and or nose jammer, and these different types of products out there that, are supposed to help with their, reduce your scent signature. And here I am back in the day just using, like, a fresh earth cover scent.
Yeah, and that's, a big part of it still is just, if the wind switches and isn't in your favor, anything to cover up that little bit of extra scent that you might be putting out into the environment around you to get that little bit of advantage helps. And even if it doesn't, in your mind, it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Is it helping?
In a lot of it's confidence. In there is such a thing as being overconfident, but if you have no confidence in something, you're not going to put as much effort into it as if you have just some confidence. And it's kind of a confidence thing. Like, I have confidence in that. And does it help? Do you want to be honest with you? I can't 100% tell you that it helps. It helps me, but I don't know if it actually really helps, the overall hunt. And I guess I could make the argument that it does help the overall hunt, because it gives me the confidence to stay at it.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's going to give you the confidence to do that, it's going to give you confidence in your shot. It's going to give you confidence in your draw. It's going to
Right.
give you confidence in your stand placement. So it all bleeds into each other.
Right. And the outside of that would be the overconfidence. Like, and honestly, I got to be honest with you. There was a time I was a little bit too overconfident with, like, scent lock and things like that. And, where you just think you can just get away with everything. And that's not the case at all. It doesn't matter which way the wind's blowing. You got that on, you'll be fine. No, no,
Found out the hard way, huh?
no. It turns out it does matter. But a lot of that also kind of depends on the mood of the deer too, right? You catch a rutting buck at the right time. There ain't a whole lot that's going to change his mind.
No.
And that's why a lot of people like to hunt the rut. But no, that was the first one with the bow. And like I say, he's probably gonna be the cover art, and that's got to be. I want to say that was either 05 or 06 was when I shot him. Was my first bow kill. Then that progressed, and I was got a few does here and there. took a few pokes at some bucks. One I eventually got, and the other ones, which there was actually, there's only like one other one that I actually had put an arrow in, and that was very devastating, that we didn't get him. And that kind of led me to change my arrow setup because I was not happy with the performance of it that day. But to go back to that fixed blade conversation that we had, I had went to Greg after I had shot that first buck, that first deer. I said, "Hey, I noticed this." And Greg, obviously, I think Greg knows what the fix to it was, but Greg also knew where I was at in my bow career. He's like, "Well, here, try mechanicals because they'll fly better for you." Blah blah blah. So I end up switching over and using mechanicals from that point, and I actually had good success with them. There was a time that I found that they weren't hitting. There was a certain ones that were the Grim Reapers I was using. I had the practice head, and I was shooting field points with that practice head to kind of see where, because I had learned that was a step you might want to do to see how it's impacting with your field points. And I seen that it was just hitting kind of slightly to the right consistently. So I called Northeast Outdoors and said, "Hey, quick question for you. What's the fix for this?" And they told me, just move your rests a little bit towards the, if I remember correctly, it's towards the broadhead, I think. It's towards where the broadhead's impacting. And sure enough, that brought the two together. So.
Well, good. It's nice having a shop around with guys like Greg to have that wealth of knowledge, especially for guys coming up. That was before YouTube and everything was super popular. And, you did have the hunting videos to watch, but it wasn't a tutorial or anything. It was just, this is what we're doing, man. We're out here shooting deer. And there wasn't any tricks and tips to making your shot better or improving performance of your bow.
No, and that's a good thing about today. Like, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, but that's a good thing about the internet today and YouTube and the stuff that's out there, because there's a lot to learn from, and a lot of it's take your advice from somebody, but a lot of it's going to be trial and error because you don't know that they're not telling you the right thing until you try it. Then you're like, "Well, that didn't work."
And you might even have a personal preference toward this head or that head or this arrow or that arrow, and they might have a preference a completely opposite direction, but a lot of the information they're putting out there is still useful regardless of your setup. Try things.
Yeah, that was the first one. It was a good fall morning. It was a good early fall morning. And that was the first time really scouting an area and picking out an area that, we knew bucks were traveling in, and it paid off.
Good. And that kill probably led you to where you're at now. Had you spent a couple more years unsuccessful, it's hard to say where you would have went in that direction.
Yeah, because there was a time where at one time I did have a crossbow, and because I was just not confident with the bow at all. And, so I got the crossbow because, like, all right, so I can shoot farther, I can shoot, and I didn't kill anything with the crossbow either, because guess what? There was just something about the bow, like just the drawing of the bow and just the whole process behind bow hunting that kept drawing me back into it. And I'm glad I went back and stuck with it. I had that success that kind of gave me the confidence to build forward, obviously, from that. And that's 2005. It's 2024 now. So there's been a lot that's taken place in the last 19 years. So 19
coming up on 20.
19 coming up on 20 years here real soon.
Has it flown by?
It has. It has. And it gets faster. It gets faster as it gets higher up in numbers.
It's funny thinking back to being a kid and hearing people say the older you get, the quicker it goes. And you're just kind of thinking in your head, yeah, you're full of shit. But here we sit, and again, coming into September already in 2024, it's like, where did the rest of this year go already?
Yeah. Man, I can't, because I'm like, man, I gotta, finish prepping to go to Colorado. I'm like, well, I got a little bit of time. And the next thing I know, it's Friday again. I'm like, oh, whole another week's passed. What's going on?
Yeah, it's here. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know where else to put that. It's here. I can't say it crept up on us because we've been waiting on it, but it got here quicker.
Yeah, it did. It did. But I also think as you get older, you also get more patient too. Like, see, you as a kid, like Christmas morning, like you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait. It's like, the first day of gun season, I couldn't wait as a kid. Like, I think just, is it gun? But of course it didn't help that, as soon as like hunting season started, we were diving into the Primos videos and the Buckmasters videos and stuff. Like, I still have a lot of those DVDs here, and I still watch them before season. Like the day before season, I pop them in and start watching them. And you know it's it brings back a lot of good memories as you sit back and watch those old videos and stuff. It's just to see how far we've come.
Yeah, it's crazy to think where it started and how far it's come along, and seeing the Primos guys still going at it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
just
even the
awesome.
same people anymore though.
It's
A
not.
lot of the crew that I grew up with have moved on to other adventures. Because I'm used to like the Keith Burgess, the Chris Ashley, the Kevin Meacham, that crew.
Mhm.
And they're all now small town hunting. They have since branched off from Primos and started their own thing. I don't think Will Primos is as active as what he was because he was not to be mean, but he was old then. Like unfortunately, age doesn't go the opposite direction.
Right.
And so they got a little bit of a different crew, and I really haven't seen much or watched much of them because that was just the crew I was used to.
Right. Right. Well, now you've got a lot of new crews around with a lot of good information too.
Right.
Watching the hunting public and seeing them from where they started with a lot of their early whitetail stuff, and now moving into a lot of Western hunting is really cool to watch those guys too.
Yeah, I like their approach because back in the day when you had like the television series, like these guys, they had to condense a lot of stuff, right? And, their shows had to be this, they had to have, the kills and things on it. So there's some things that they did and nothing illegal. Like they hunted a lot of private stuff, things like that. And their videos mostly just focused on just that, the kill, right? Well,
Hmm.
then you get um, like the hunting public. I'm not saying they're the first ones to do it, but you get like the hunting public now on YouTube, to where you go read the comments. There's people that are mad at them. Like, here, I'll save you a bunch of hassle. There's no kills in this video. So they're posting their day by day. What they're seeing day by day, and honestly, I think that helps paint a better picture of what hunting is. Because if you just watch what the old bone collector used to be, old Primos used to be, you would think that there are big deer around every corner and every tree, and that you can get deflated if you don't know any better. That why am I not shooting? This is like day number. I'm already 2 hours in. I haven't killed anything. What's going on? Because they usually got 3 or 4 down in a half hour.
Yeah, yeah, it did paint kind of a picture of if you were basing success off of that too, in which a lot of people did and still do. It made it really tough to go out and go, I'm not seeing anything. Where all these deer everybody's always talking about. And for these newer guys to be putting it kind of all out there in a sense, it's refreshing and it's really nice. Like it's just great to see the fact that not every hunt ends in a kill, because you know it, I know it, but maybe someone who doesn't hunt that's thinking about it, they don't know it.
No, they don't. They don't. And if you don't have the right mentors around them, they could become easily frustrated when it doesn't happen right out the gate. So
Or easily influenced to doing the wrong thing potentially.
yeah, really easily. Uh, well, and it's a bigger discussion. We could talk about our lack of acceptance of failure. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it's
it's it we either don't let people fail so they understand that it's okay. I don't know. That's a very deep conversation. I don't know if I'm ready to get into it today, but
right.
so let's turn the tables here. What about your first bow kill?
My first bow kill, I can't remember exactly what year it was, But I know I was about 15, 16 years old, right around the age, everybody's starting to get their driver's license, your friends, and even if you didn't have your driver's license, you had a friend that did. So it kind of kicked the door wide open for us as far as archery. It was always something we did. We'd shoot bows and stuff, but like being able to go places without having someone to take us there kind of made it hard. I was lucky enough to grow up on 3 acres, and I started shooting a bow at probably 14 years old, somewhere in there. And I started shooting with my dad's old bow that honestly I'd never even seen him shoot. I'd just seen it hanging in the garage most of the time. Most of my archery experience was just going with my cousins and sitting and watching them hunt for the most part, sitting on the ground with them. But finally, I decided I wanted to try it. And I was lucky enough again to grow up on 3 acres, and probably two of it was kind of wooded, kind of field type terrain. And so I started shooting my dad's old bow, and I can't remember if it was a Puma or a Cougar or what the name it was, but it didn't even have like the cam system that we have these days. It was just like two rollers. I think it was maybe 45 pounds draw weight, old brass pins with just painted dots. It wasn't even the fiber optics that we have now. And you took, I think it was a little wrench, and you would unscrew the back to adjust them where they needed to be. And so I spent a lot of time shooting that at the house. And then when season would roll around, I'd go sit kind of on the timber line of the timber in the field and wait to see if deer would come out, which they typically would come out through the summer. And I would sit there and wait and usually not see anything because didn't really know anything, no scent control, didn't really think about the wind, just, well, I see deer show up in my yard, and why wouldn't they show up now? So one evening, and this is going to be my first miss. It's not going to be my first kill, but we'll get into the first kill a little bit later. But one evening, I was sitting down there, maybe 14 years old at the time, with that old bow, old aluminum shaft arrows with an NAP thunderhead on the end of it, and had a few doe come up behind me, and they might have been 10, 15 yards. And that bow wasn't lobbing those aluminum arrows very quickly. And I turn around, I put the pin where I thought it should be, and I released that arrow. And I don't know how slow that arrow was going, but it was slow enough to where that doe's belly touched the ground and that arrow sailed right over the back of her. And it was funny too, because it was my first encounter with a bow. It was my first shot with a bow. And it was almost like slow motion watching the whole thing play out, her all the way down on the ground and that arrow just sailing like it had no purpose now. And so it was comical. I went and picked the arrow up after they took off and had gone back to the house and was telling my dad about it. And we had a good laugh. But fast forward a couple years later, me and a buddy had been shooting bows. I had at the time a Hoyt laser tech that I had bought from my cousin. And man, we spent days in, days out shooting bow. Wintertime, if it was too cold, too crappy out, we'd be in the basement shooting. And summertime, we'd be setting up in his side yard or my side yard shooting all the time. And finally, a hunting season rolls around. Again, I think I was 15, 16 years old. And we go out to his grandma's place. I can't remember. I think he had his driver's license at the time. I can't recall if I did. But we went out to his grandmother's place and hunted this area we called the top field. And so it was a big rolling hill surrounded by timber that came up to where a farmer grew I think it was alfalfa at the time. And we had shared climbers. They had a box blind built in that field. So that evening, I got to take the climber, and he took one of the younger kids that he was kind of mentoring in a sense. I think the kid was 11 or 12 at the time, just sitting in the box blind with him. And I was up, I don't know, maybe 25 feet in a climber in this big solid oak tree. Or was it an oak tree? I can't remember what tree it was now. I want to say it was an oak tree. and right on the field line. And at the time, a little ignorant, didn't know a whole lot still. And I'm in that climber, no safety harness, no safety belt, just sheer trust that I wasn't going to fall out of a tree. And I don't know if it was confidence, ignorance, or a combination of the two that we're like, yeah, you're fine. 25, 30 feet up, just go. You'll be all right.
You'll be
But
fine.
yeah, I mean, somehow was, thank my lucky stars, because 25, 30 feet, that, that might kill you if you do fall. But fortunately, everybody's still fine to this day. Neither of us have fallen out of a tree yet. So, but anyway, it's evening hunt, and we're sitting there. I bet we weren't set up. They were set up across the field from me, and again, I was in that tree pretty high up. And I bet we weren't all set up more than shoot 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And to the left of me come a big doe with two younger does. And I don't know how old this doe was, but I mean, she made the other two look just teeny tiny, like German shepherds, maybe.
Big old doe.
And yeah, yeah. And so I have this Hoyt laser tech. I'm shooting carbon arrows now at this time that I have the Hoyt. I can't remember what brand the arrow I was shooting was, but I was shooting the NAP Spitfire mechanicals at this time out of that thing. Had the fiber optic sights on the laser tech and had shot it really, really well all year. I think I even had Robin Hooded an arrow in the summer, which was a big confidence boost for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially at that age. And the release I was using was a release I got from a family friend. It was an index release, but it was, I don't know what year model it was. I don't even remember the name of it, but it was only about 2.5 inches long off of the wrist strap. And it didn't have that, like a lot of the index release now, the trigger sticking out past. It was kind of in a U-shaped bowl and was kind of, I wouldn't say was depressed in, but it was in that U-shaped bowl and didn't stick out like the index release you'd think of today. And so anyway,
Anyway.
trying to think of the best way to describe it and paint a picture, but it was nothing like what I'm shooting these days or had been shooting these days. But I shot it really well. It was a chillier evening. I want to say it was late October, maybe pushing into November. No snow on the ground yet, but we're 40 minutes into this hunt. I'm wearing those. Oh, what the heck were they? They were kind of like mittens, but you could peel the top back, and then your
Okay.
fingers were
Mm-hmm.
half exposed. And so I'm wearing those. These deer start coming in. I have my right hand with the fingers exposed. I'd say this doe was at 20, 25 yards. It was before I had a rangefinder. And so I draw back and I'm moving my sight down, trying to get lined up with her. And as I get lined up with her, I move my finger over a little too early. And the way that release was shaped, and the way these gloves were sitting on my fingers, I had touched the trigger off sooner than I had planned. Because as I'm bringing my finger over to the trigger, that glove section between my finger and the trigger just caught it and sent that arrow early. Unfortunately, the arrow hit her at the base of the skull, but it did drop her in her tracks, and I was immediately able to get a follow-up shot to dispatch that deer. And it was a swift kill, but I wish it would have been cleaner.
Yeah.
But she got ate. She got, taken back to the barn. We parted her out and got her ready for meal consumption. And it was a memorable hunt. It was still exciting regardless of the shot placement. Not to make light, but it was nice to not have to track it or worry about a gut shot either. But it was a swift kill. And, over the years, I quit wearing those type of gloves just because of fear of something like that happening again. And, a lot of things could have been done differently, but had they been, who knows? I might not have even got that shot off, or, I might have missed, or might have just been nervous enough to make a worse shot.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said that things happen for a reason. Like it went, there was no other way for it to go other than how it went. And if it had gone a different way, like you said, well, it would have resulted in a different result. It may have been a favorable result or a less than favorable result. And it happens. Like these things happen. Mistakes happen, and it's a part of growing up, and it's a part of learning and becoming a better hunter. I would like to say that no deer are ever, or no animals ever injured or by a hunter, right, or maimed by a hunter. That's not the case. Like it does happen. However, welcome to nature. Like it's, they're maimed by their predators all the time or by themselves. I've come across deer that, we had no explanation as to why it was laying where it was, other than it got in a fight with a bigger buck and broke its back, and, that's it's, how far it was from the road, things like that. Like, it's like, there's no way that it got here, that this is what, I mean, this is the only logical thing that could have happened. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
and we do as many things as we can to control the outcome.
we do.
And sometimes things happen that are beyond our control.
And
And
number one, the deer
that's
move.
all that's all you can do. You can only
You-
do what you can do.
yeah, animals move. Believe it or not, they don't just stand there like a 3D target. So, and that puts some credence into stuff that like the ranch fairy's talking about. About going with the heavier arrows, or at least getting arrows or your setup that's capable of penetration. Um, there's a lot of detractors to him. He kind of brings it on himself a little bit by his demeanor and stuff, but like it's part of his chick. Like he's got a great following, and he's got a good message. And there's a lot of archers out there that are too worried about getting the arrow to the animal. They're not worried about what happens once the arrow gets there. And
Yeah, for sure.
and the thing is, in Ranch Fairy, Troy says it best. He's like, animals got to vote in this. Like, they're going to move, and what was a perfect shot may not be as perfect as you thought. Now, there are some valid arguments against him, some of his setups, that, well, typically you're going to miss further back. So that smaller cutting diameter is not going to help you as much as the larger cutting diameter of a mechanical. I wish there was a magic bullet in all of this, right? And there's not, but the animals have a, they're going to react to it. And it depends what your area you're in or how much they react or how much they've been pressured. Cause I guarantee
Well,
you,
even at that, if they don't react to the shot, something can happen in the environment that causes them to react.
anything. So it's an unfortunate part of it. And like you said, we do everything in our power, to be better. I'm sure that experience you took away a lot from that experience. It was a favorable ending for you, and you have the right to enjoy it. But you also took away from, hey, I don't want to do this again because this was not how I wanted this to go. We've all been there. We've all, that's the reason why I've changed broadheads several times. Like I used to shoot brand X religiously until I had 3 deer in 1 year, right? 3 shots, bam, 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 that I didn't recover. And I'm done with this. Like I can't do this anymore. And one of them was a buck that I'm telling you was right behind the shoulder, and I got very little penetration. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I cannot. So I started going down a different route.
Which
So
leads you down the rabbit hole of research and
it
finding
does.
the information out there to help your shot be better, and help your arrow efficiency be better. And, I remember when I started, like, I don't, it was go to Walmart, like you said earlier, go to Walmart, buy the arrow, and put a broadhead on it. Like, I don't remember ever cutting an arrow to length. I remember just they were already inserted, already fletched,
Mm-hmm.
and you put a field point on them and shoot them.
Yeah, and just off you went. And every now and again you had one that didn't fly right, so you didn't use that one. Kind of
Yeah.
find out you could
So,
knock tune it and maybe fix it. So,
yeah.
and there's
Yeah,
just
I mean, the information that's out there now is just incredible. Like,
right.
the science and the math that all gives us this nice little layout on, and already has the work done for you. It's just, where do you want to be on that scale?
Right. And I appreciate you sharing that story because, it's hard to share your mistakes sometimes or stuff that didn't go that way because it's people see it and they don't view it very favorably and rightfully so because it's not what we want. It's not the ideal outcome, but if you
Right.
get
It's
past
not the
that and
picture everybody wants to paint, but it's the picture that needs to be there. Not everything goes perfectly as planned. Shit happens, and you know, I've lost deer. You've lost deer. I don't know if I'll believe anybody fully that tells me they've never had an incident where they didn't lose a deer or have a bad shot on a deer. So, you know, and not to put anybody down because I'm not like it's again, we've both done it. It's part of the game, unfortunately.
it is, it is. And, you try to avoid it as much as possible and, and you learn from it and you go and you do better. But once again, the animals have a say in this, and what looked like a great shot turns out wasn't a great shot or just something in the environment changed that you didn't see or just it happens. Um, but the worst thing for it to happen is that you don't learn anything from it. Like, if you'd had that experience, didn't change anything about what you did and just said, whatever, and didn't care, and it kept happening. Okay, you're a monster at that point. Like you need to, you need to check yourself a little bit, right? But that's not what happened, obviously, right? You had something that didn't go the way you wanted it to. You analyzed what the issue was, or tried to look into what the issue was, and then you developed a plan on how to be better. And it's the only thing you can ask to do. Like there is no perfect. Like there's just constant improvement. And I think that's why a lot of
Exactly.
people get frustrated with it because we want to just like, when are we done? And
Well,
I just want to
that
be
and we want that
done.
instant result. Like, a lot of people want that instant result, and archery's never going to give you that instant result. You have to practice, you have to work hard. It's not something that you just get to pick up, which I don't know. There's probably someone out there who can just pick it up and do it really well. But typically, it's not something you're just going to pick up and be good at.
No, there's very little things you're going to pick up and be good at, right? Most people have a hard enough time breathing, let alone, you know, picking up something that's not that they're supposed to do. And it's just it's anything. Like it's archery, it's shooting, it's riding a bike, it's driving a car, it's what your job is. If you don't
Skipping
do
a
it for a
rock.
while, like I guarantee you, like I have not worked the road as a police officer for it's been a while. Like if I actually had to go back and work the road, I'm gonna be rusty as I'm gonna be very rusty because I'm not used to it, right? But when I was working it, full time, man, I could handle 5 calls at one time and like it wouldn't be a thing. Now I'm like I would get tripped up on like a barking dog complaint, like what? you know?
Oh, a dog's barking. You don't say.
So it's just but it comes back to it's all perishable skills, right? And you only have your body only has the ability to do something really well for like a few things. If you don't practice it, it's going to find what else it can throw in there. It can be easily forgotten. Like riding a bicycle, people say, "Oh, it's like riding a bicycle." Okay, you might be able to get back on a bike and ride it, but I guarantee you, you're not going to be as good at it as you was when you were riding it full time. When that was your only
And you're
means
not
of
going to
transport.
have the confidence you did.
No. When my only means of transportation was my bike, not only could I go down the road and pedal no handed, but I could stand up and pedal no handed and make turns no handed on my bike. Right? I try that. Like I can barely make a turn with both hands on the steering wheel now.
Right.
Because I don't ride
Get a
them as
little
much.
wobbly, some shaky knees. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, and I see it myself when I don't shoot my bow for a few days. I'll go back out and shoot. I'm like, ugh, just something doesn't feel right. But once I'm back in
Right.
the swing of shooting almost every day, like everything just becomes natural again. I can't say that, like, I'm not saying that you lose a lot of your accuracy, but you do notice it. You're like, okay, there's something a little different here. I just need to focus and the biggest thing for me is when to quit. Like, all right, stop now, come back tomorrow.
Right.
Let's rebuild because you're just gonna get frustrated and make it even worse. Anyways, well, dude, I do appreciate you sharing it. Like I said, I appreciate you sharing that story. I know we've talked off air before and it was kicking around a little bit, but I think there's some learning to it, and we learn more from mistakes than we do our actual successes. And
Absolutely. And I feel, sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't want to tell that because of this, or I don't want to tell that because of that. Everything was legal about the hunt. And it didn't go exactly as planned. But I feel like transparency leads to kind of authenticity as well.
it does.
And we want to be an authentic show, and we don't want people to be ashamed of the experience that they've had, even if it didn't go as planned. A gut shot deer, a lost deer. Tell those stories, and it'll help you revise maybe the mistakes that were made that led up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing to be ashamed of as long as you learn from it, like you said earlier.
Yeah, as long as you learn from it, you didn't purposely do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, we're about an hour and 10 minutes in.
Yes, we are.
Cycle back on a previous one of our last episodes. We were talking about broadhead selection, and I was talking about the Iron Will single bevel 125s, and that I was thinking about maybe not going to the wides because the bevel or they're vented.
Yeah.
I went ahead and went with them anyways.
I knew you wouldn't be able to resist.
Yeah, I went ahead and ordered them. I was talking to Marty on Instagram because
he reassured you about their durability.
Well, yeah, the durability and a couple other things too. So I want to preface this, and I'm going to say it now. Yes, I know that ballistic gel and broadheads are going to react very differently in ballistic gel than in real animals. All right, I know this.
Right.
Okay. So, do you know John Lusk that runs like Lusk Archery Adventures?
I do not familiar.
All right. Well, he's a pretty big YouTube channel, and he does a lot of broadhead testing, and it's pretty cool. Like he tests a lot of heads, and one of his tests is he's got a couple tests that are in ballistic gel, but there's one he does specifically for single bevels in the gel, and he measures how much rotation they get. And all of them rotate, some degree, usually about, somewhere between 20 and 40 degrees, right? They all do. But these ones didn't rotate at all. He's like, I was like very little rotation. And now, once again, I wasn't like concerned, I'm like, oh, I can't believe it didn't rotate. What's going wrong here? However, I did want to ask questions about some of the real world results were. And as I thought, and also what I've seen myself with the standard single bevels, because I see about 90 degrees of rotation. So if they go in vertical, they come out horizontal on the other side. So I definitely see about 90-degree rotation. And that's what Marty was telling me they were seeing with the wide single bevels, or it was about the same, was about 90 degrees. So, once again, gel, who knows? Vented, will fly better than solids because they don't plane as much. So that's a plus there too. The only downside to them is they can be noisier.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I've heard some of the vented heads there can make, with air coming through those vents, can make a little bit extra aero noise potentially.
Which that is true. It does. I just don't know how much of an issue that really is. I think I'm still in the air on that one. I know that they can pick up on it. And if you watch a couple of my videos on YouTube from like the 3D shoots, I'm not shooting broadheads, just field points, but usually I have a camera set. There'll be a few angles where I'll put my camera down by the target and then shoot the target, and you can hear the arrows as they get close. And then, but you don't hear them from, when they first shoot them. Like you hear my bow go off, then like give it a couple seconds, and you hear, and then thwack into the target. So it's not like
you can make it as quiet as you want, but you're not ever going to eliminate all noise.
No. And here's another thing though to think about is there's actually some strong evidence to suggest that they can actually see that arrow.
Really?
Yeah. The way that their I'm going to call it refresh rate is, I don't know what it actually is, but look up I think it's the Mississippi State University. Their deer lab has posted a lot of videos and stuff, and they talk about deer vision. So I know I'm going to mess this up. So this is not the scientific explanation of it. This is the Sean Smith near Appalachian explanation of it. But their refresh rate is extremely fast compared to ours. So in other words, like, think of it this way, like when a sensor's activated, it pops, right? It'll pop, but it'll refresh it almost just as quickly as it popped. So what's going on there is that it's actually refreshing and picking up, another image really quickly. And so what they think is that it's so fast that they can actually see the arrows in flight.
Wow. If that is the case, man, that is incredibly impressive.
So I do recommend you guys to go check that out. I think they were on, I think that the first discussion I heard was with the hunting public, and they were talking with the guy from, it's the Mississippi State University and their deer folks. They've also done like a study with collars. They would collar the collar the deer, and then do like a long-term study about buck movement, things like that. But it was the same folks and started talking about the vision of a deer. And I think Marty and I actually got in that conversation before, because I had posted a video and tagged the ranch fairy, because that's one of the ranch fairies, big things is this and that and deer movement and stuff. And I was like, hey, I don't really care how quiet your setup is, and you're never going to beat the deer, because I'm assuming the deer heard my bow go off. And then Marty and I started going, start talking about this study and stuff about the deer vision. And I'm like, I've heard about that, and there is some evidence to suggest that they are able to see it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to, we get off here, I think I might turn that on and give it a look, because that's very interesting.
So it's, of course, he's going to explain it better than I did. I'm just giving you the very dumbed down red, Appalachian American version of it. So
redneck cliff notes.
Right. That's the best I could give you on that one. But yeah, so that's another thing to think about, is that maybe it's not so much a noise, it's that you can actually see it, because their vision's based more on like movement and stuff anyways. If you stand still, they tend to look through you, but you move though, they got you. They definitely got you.
Pretty much every time. That's how they've survived so many years. Not gone extinct yet.
No.
Until you are driving a car down the road. But
yes. And then that's why I thought about just putting, heard Ron White talk about this, about bullets, because his brother was a big deer hunter, and he's like, well, yeah, we'll hit one with a van going like 20 miles an hour with the lights on and the horns blowing. I said, I bet you put little headlights and a horn on your bullets, you'd hit every deer you shot at, because they would just jump in front of it.
No doubt.
So maybe that's what we do. That's what we ought to do. We need to create a broadhead that has little headlights and a horn on it.
Well, unfortunately, you still wouldn't be allowed to use it in Colorado.
Yeah, because you can't have anything that emits a light. That's right.
But for whitetail, it'd probably work pretty good.
You guys can't even use lighted knocks, can you?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't remember
through the regulations. I know a lot of states out west were at a point to where you couldn't, but I know some states are making amendments and changes, and I'm not sure if we are one of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to put some thought into that.
I know you're not allowed to have your little UV light on your sight at all. You're not allowed to use like the new Garmin range finding sights.
Correct.
And all that jazz. But yeah, as far as lighted knock, I don't know the answer to that.
When it comes to sight lights, the only time I've ever felt I needed one was when I was hunting in a ground blind.
And even then, it's almost a little too much.
Yeah, that's the only time, because the ground blind, there's not a lot of residual light that's in there that will actually help light those pins up. So at the later part of the day, you're getting close to that gray light, to your last light for, legal light. Your pins get a little dark. But that's the only time I've ever thought that I needed a light for my pins. Now, as I get older, that might change, but this will be my first year bow hunting at 40. So I'll let you know on how,
well,
what's changed.
I do like the lighted nocks. It helps you with knowing or having a better idea on where your arrow hit on the animal.
Hmm.
And potentially, even when that animal goes down, if you don't get a great blood trail, something maybe still sticking there that will help you recover the animal as well. So
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to them at all.
No, I'm not either. I think
I like the argument for more so than against. Anything to help with recovery
right.
is great in my book.
Yeah, and I'm with it. Like I like the idea of drones these days for recovery. I won't support it for the actual hunt itself, but for recovery, yes.
No,
Um, and dogs, the use of dogs, whatever it is that will help you recover more of your animals. And to be honest with
absolutely.
you, like I want to touch on this real quick. There's a lot of negativity when it comes to hunting with hounds. When in like the Western states, like they don't like you to hunt with hounds for like bear and things like that. And, so they ban it. But to be honest with you, like if you're trying to avoid shooting a female of that species, whether you're trying, you don't want to shoot a female mountain lion, you don't want to shoot a female or a sow, what better way to do that and to have them treed and you have all the time in the world to inspect to make sure that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Because that's what the dogs do. Like they'll run them, they'll get them up a tree, and then they'll just sit there, and they wait for you to get there.
Yep.
And then,
And not to get down the rabbit hole of this potential lion hunting ban, but yeah, not hunting them with hounds. Well, actually, I believe I'd have to do some more research, but from what I've heard, been told that it's not just hunting lions with hounds that they're trying to include in this bill. They're trying to prevent you from hunting with dogs altogether, from what I've heard. And so that would mean no more duck dogs, no more pheasant dogs, no more upland game bird dogs. So it's not just going to affect lion hunters. For those of you out there listening, like they're coming for you.
right, and it's in every hunter problem. Like it's they don't want you to hunt. The end. That is what their goal is they don't want you to hunt, and they're going to make it so hard for you to hunt because mountain lion. I've never hunted mountain lion. What I've heard, I'm not opposed to mountain lion hunting. Actually, I might try it one of these years. What I have heard though is that it's become almost it's not impossible, but it becomes increasingly difficult when you cannot use hounds because they're not exactly the most easiest species to hunt.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now with the current structure that CPW has in place for lion hunting, you can still use dogs. Um, I don't have any dogs. I don't know anybody that has any dogs. I picked up a lion tag this past season just to get one and see what I could see. And it is, yeah, without having dogs to get on a scent trail, it is very difficult. Not to mention how well they blend in with their environment.
Right. I mean, they're natural predators. I mean, that's what they do.
Absolutely.
And they're very good at it.
Absolutely. Much better than we are.
Yes. Yes. Yes, they are.
As contrary to, what activist groups will lead you to believe, they are far better at hiding and far better at surviving. So,
Right.
Another thing that has occurred is some of these activist groups have started using AI to deliver their message full of misinformation and lies.
Yes,
And maybe it's just to a point that they know they're telling lies and they don't want a specific person's face associated with those lies. And so they're just going to use something that, in a sense, isn't accountable.
Yeah, I seen that. You sent that to me. I'm just sitting there shaking my head. I'm like,
I mean, it's disgusting.
it is. It's
like
the
blatant misinformation, the blatant lies. It's just, I don't know how people get away with it and how they can put it out there as any form of information without being flagged or, at least having their hands smacked for it.
Well, because here's what it is. It's because the media outlets they're putting on supports their cause.
Yeah,
that's why. If we went
unfortunately,
through, if we, what did you see that the Montana Knife Company had a commercial banned?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not see that.
Yeah, they had a commercial banned, and like, I'm pretty sure like it's the video was pretty much just about hard work and things like that, and they freaking banned it. Like that.
Wow.
Like people need to. I God, don't get me started. People need to actually wake up. Like you need to wake up and realize that your media accounts, all of them, are censoring what gets sent out to you.
Mm-hmm.
The social media accounts are really bad about it. The national TV accounts are extremely bad about it. Like they are censoring it. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on. Fox is just as guilty of it as CNN is.
Well, it's
And
not even that they're just censoring it. I think I sent you a news article the other day as well from CBS putting out the misinformation that this AI message I sent you is putting out.
mm-hmm. Like it's indoctrination. I think that's why podcasts, like a lot of like the mainstream media doesn't like podcasts, is because there's not a whole lot of checks and balances to it. Like you don't have to follow the script of what is given to you by your whoever. Like it's two guys, one in Colorado and one in Ohio, sitting down together on a phone conversation, having a discussion about, what they believe to be the truth, or at least their best run at it. You know what I mean?
And using the information that we've looked up and used that, some of it may be biased. Some of it definitely isn't. Like you can't change, like, well, I guess some people can make science to fit their agenda, but, the science that we have is the science is currently working for the system that we currently have.
Right. You could eat, well, science can be bought, it depends on who is footing the bill for the research.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, and I don't want to get, the tinfoil hats out and make people think that's what we're all about. But I will say this, we'll always give you the truth here.
Or at least our best version of what we know to be.
No, trust me, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Anyways.
Yeah.
No, we want to be challenged, and our views and opinions to be challenged, and that's what most of this is views and opinions. And I don't ever want to come off as it being like total facts. There are some things that I think that we could argue that is factual, and there are some of the things that it's just based upon our opinions. But those opinions,
you'll be able to very easily tell which are which.
Right. And those opinions are kind of based upon what we've, based upon our experiences, which is what this podcast is really about, is chasing our own experiences and having those own beliefs and those own opinions and things. Last podcast, I got pretty animated about, depredation tags. You don't have to believe the same as me. This is just what I'm coming with my experience. That's what makes the world go round.
That's a great thing about America. I can say things that you don't like, and we all figure out how to get along afterwards.
True. But anyways, folks, I think we're getting to a good stopping point here. We're starting to spiral into a lot of outside of the norm topics.
Starting to chase rabbit holes.
Starting to chase in rabbit holes like a few others. But anyways, anything else good for the order?
I've got nothing else. Everybody enjoy what's left of summer, and good luck coming in the fall.
Yes, because those hunting seasons are coming up very quick. So this is like the last warning you're ever going to hear. Some of you, it may be too late for you, but for you Ohio bow hunters, or people whose seasons come in around ours, this is probably going to be the last warning you hear. Get out and shoot your bow. Go check your bow. Make sure that it's good to go. Because if you haven't shot it since last season, some things may have happened. Maybe your string's not good. Some things may have changed, right? Go shoot it. Go find out what's going on. And don't wait till the last minute to get it fixed, because I guarantee you, if you don't know how to do it yourself, it's not going to get done at a pro shop because they're busy because of other people that did the exact same thing.
Absolutely. So for you in Colorado, it's here.
Yeah, it's here. It's already here, and you're already either on the mountain or way too far behind the curve. So, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we really do appreciate you guys taking time out of your day, that you sat down and listened to us talk about our first bow kills to kind of get you pumped up for that bow season coming up. We also appreciate you sitting around and listening to us ramble about just some random topics that, two guys that are about 1,000 miles apart came up with and just discussed off the fly. It was just kind of part of the podcast here. We know your guys' time is valuable. Like I said, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media accounts, which will be in the outro. We'll tell you how to find those things. With that being said, until our experiences cross paths again, may you have the courage to fail, but yet the humility to learn. And as always, we hope you stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Country Fried Outdoors Chasing Your Experience podcast. Before you go, don't forget to leave us a review and follow the show on the podcast platform of your choice. Are you hungry for more Country Fried Outdoors? Then follow us on Instagram at Country Fried Outdoors, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Country Fried Outdoor Productions.